So episode 5,
Yes.
Outcasts or Light Bearers.
Yes.
So Madiha, creator.
Ifra, AWOL for a while, but I'm back. Yeah.
So thank you for being here.
Of course.
again.
Thank you for having me once more. Yeah, it's amazing.
So I was racking my brain as to where to begin from. Or the only thing that came to mind was Pani ki tanki. So
I want to hear the segue.
The rest of the story.
The story,
before
yes.
Pani ki tanki.
Yes.
तो मैट्रिक के एग्जाम्स हुए, ठीक है, और मेरे आई वाज सपोज टू गो टू प्री मेड,
Yeah.
तो मेरे मार्क्स नहीं थे, तो इतने भी मार्क्स नहीं थे कि मैं कनेड जाऊँ, क्योंकि कनेड तो मैंने जाना था. तो आई स्टार्टेड विद लाहौर कॉलेज. तो लाहौर कॉलेज में मैं थी और फिर लाहौर कॉलेज था. तो एक तो यूनिफॉर्म था सबसे पहले लाहौर कॉलेज में. आई थिंक देयर वाज अ यूनिफॉर्म इन माय हेड. देयर वाज अ यूनिफॉर्म इन
I
लाहौर
think so
कॉलेज.
too.
Maybe it's just I don't know, the perception that it
Yeah.
was a
Mandela effect.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was some box that I was stepping into
Yeah.
that I was not supposed to step
Yeah.
into. तो वो तो लाहौर कॉलेज में एक पानी की टैंकी थी जहाँ मैंने अपना FA का 2 साल गुजारे वहाँ पे.
Yeah.
वो पानी की टैंकी जो है and after it used to be, it began with me, but slowly it started getting populated with more outcasts.
Yeah. Oh.
And so I found my tribe
Yeah.
in that पानी की टैंकी, on that पानी की टैंकी. और वो जो आउटकास्ट थे उसमें एक आर्टिस्ट थी who had come there to do finance. उसमें एक was a Kathak dancer who was in pre-engineering.
Wow, that's
actually.
beautiful. Yeah.
And the third was myself, who
Yeah.
was in civic studies and English literature, and the classes which I never attended. And the conversations that we would have on that Pani Ki Tanki were very much centered on who we were not. And we were young, right? 17-18 साल की लड़कियां थी. And college, who we were not, and how that Pani Ki Tanki was the safest place all three of us had experienced in a very long time. So it became our refuge and our escape from our lives. So one outcast moment is the Pani Ki Tanki for me. The second outcast moment where it's a strange moment where it's not an outcast moment, but a moment that enabled me to fit in somewhere, was Toba Take Sing. So not the city, but the play.
Yeah.
By
the play.
Manto. So after my FA ended, तो अब्बा ने कहा कि you're deeply unhappy. It's like, wow, strange. Why did you think that?
Yeah.
So
Where's that
so
coming
deeply
from?
unhappy. Do you want to try for Canadian? I said I don't have the marks because FA में भी मेरे मतलब second degree. And this is, by the way, a scholarship student all the way to
Oh, wow.
through school and like straight scholarship. तो मेरे मार्क्स इतने भी नहीं थे कि मैं BA की कनेड के अंदर मेरिट की लिस्ट कर सकूं. They had extra curricular seats slotted, and I auditioned for dramatics. Or dramatics में I got in.
Yeah.
I just somehow got in. And once I got in, I found Canade Ki Chhat.
Another one.
So I found Canade Ki Chhat,
Yeah.
and there was another outcast who joined me there. And she was, oh my God, unlike any human being that I've ever met, because she was safe. She felt safe in being an outcast. She brought all of herself to college, and that all of herself did not fit into Canade Ki Char Diwari. It did not fit in. And I think that's the first time that I realized that a physical space does not make or unmake outcasts of you. That's who you are and what
Yeah.
you carry in your heart. And so I thought कि लाहौर कॉलेज की वजह से मैं आउटकास्ट हूँ. बट जब मैं कनेड में थी मैं एक और तरह की आउटकास्ट थी. But she brought all of herself to college. And she taught me how to talk to the trees, and how to paint raindrops, and how to sing songs in a voice that I did not believe I had. And all of these are literal things that happened. And then we had an English literature teacher who, there was Canadian annual play is a big deal. And so she said कि auditions हो रही हैं for the play, and the play was Toba Takes Sing. And to give a brief context of what Toba Takes Sing is,
for the ones who don't know.
Yes, is it's based in 1947, partition के ज़माने पे, and Toba Takes Sing is a character, भाषण सिंह, I think उसका नाम भाषण सिंह, जो एक पागल खाने में रहता है, और पागल खाने में अब डिवीजन हो रही है, तो सबकी डिवीजन, पागल खाने की भी डिवीजन हो रही है, और ही सपोज टू बी इन इंडिया, बट वो टोबा टेक सिंह जाना चाहता है बिकॉज वो टोबा टेक सिंह से है. तो वो हर एक से पूछता रहता है, पूरा प्ले हर एक से वो पूछता रहता है कि टोबा टेक सिंह इंडिया में है या पाकिस्तान में है. नोबडी हैज़ द राइट आंसर. और फिर जिस वक्त ट्रांसपोर्ट कर रहे होते हैं उन सारे पागलों को एयर कोड्स के साथ, तो वो जिस वक्त बॉर्डर पे जाता है तो ही रिफ्यूजेस टू बज, बिकॉज फॉर हिम दैट प्लेस which is neither there nor here, but a place that he carries in his heart is Toba Tek Singh. And that's where we leave him. And I played that character. And for the first time, I did not feel like an outcast. I did not, because it felt like, oddly enough, coming home. Because I have known for a long time what it is to not belong in places and in homes, in cities. And so when he refused to move from one place that he felt that he could not go further from, and he gave in, was the point that I recognized myself very strongly in that moment. So one was that, and I know those were the years when I was more physically, I was very much into self-harm in those years, and I've talked about that briefly in my earlier episode as well. So I know what it is to be in that moment where you finally give in to yourself being an outcast, and it doesn't hurt anymore. And so that was one moment. Then after that, and dramatics has played a big role in somehow exercising my demons. Because the other, and I feel like I've chosen plays which have typecast me because the other play that I chose to be a part of was Alhamra All Pakistan Drama Festival. And I was in The Crucible. I don't know if you've The Crucible. So there's a film on it as well, where it's a witch hunt. And the angry witch who's vengeful and hurtful because she's hurting so much is the role that I played. And for playing that role, I won the Best Actress Award in Pakistan.
Wow.
And I wasn't acting.
It was coming from within.
I wasn't acting. That was the most amazing part about being on that. And my parents came to watch that play, and they were sitting in the front row. And they were terrified. My father was terrified because I think for the first time, I channeled all the rage that I'd been feeling for a long time into that role. And after that, I stopped self-harming. Well, not completely stopped, but the intervals got longer and longer. So, and then the third time that I felt that I am somehow in a space that's defined as an outcast is when my daughter was diagnosed with being on the autism spectrum. But in that moment, Ifra, something changed for me. And what changed was that I have carried a part of me with myself, which has been, it's almost like a rag doll that doesn't have any life, but it's like an umbilical cord, it's attached to me. So that part of me I've carried as a dead weight for a long time. And here I am in 2016, I think, sitting in the therapist's office. It was a red couch. And therapists, after having done 3 days of exhaustive tests and evaluations, have concluded that my daughter is on the autism spectrum. And I was reading this poem to you yesterday. But I remember जब वो बात कह रही थी, she's on the autism spectrum, there was a huge sense of relief in me. Relief because I felt that finally I'm not alone. In my body also, because she's an extension of my body. Because I have collected dreams in my bedside drawer. Like, I've done that. So I would dream a dream, and then I would put it in a small bubble. Sometimes I would wrap it in a leaf, and I would put it in my bedside table drawer for emergencies. For dream emergencies. And when she was diagnosed, and so I said, अच्छा, क्योंकि मुझे तो नहीं पता था spectrum, like किसको पता है autism spectrum क्या होता है. And so I said, okay, break it down for me. And she said, think of it as like the wires in her brain are wired differently than us, than neurotypical individuals. And so what that means is she gets a lot of influx of information that she cannot process. And it's a heightened...
The same way that we do.
The same way that we do.
Yeah.
But because it's not being sent to the right circuits, it's all an overflow onto one main circuit. तो वो data categorization नहीं हो रही है उसके brain में. So it's a big jumble in her head. And therefore, when she wants to give out a frequency in words, तो वो नहीं कर पाती है क्योंकि वो information को categorize नहीं कर पा रही है. And words have been my thing. My gift is speech. Everybody is given a gift. So my gift is speech. And the fact that she chose not to speak, that's how because till about 2 years of age, she was speaking. She was reaching all milestones. But she chose not to speak and chose to come into a body that was not geared for speech, was geared for feeling only. Is something that fascinated me about my daughter in a way that it made me courageous to start re-believing in what I had felt about myself for a long time. The fact that I have magical powers. The fact
we
that...
We think so too. We think you do have magical powers.
The fact that I have magical powers and the fact that I pick up energies. So if you don't speak to me, I can get to know you better. And words are distracting for me because I've used words to distract the world from me as well. So I know how to use words. So I know how people use words. And I know that it's a shield, a facade, and it's a net. It's almost like you want to go fishing. And so you have a net with words. And so you catch the fish that you want to distract yourself and everybody else from the ocean somehow. I don't know if that analogy is even making sense.
Kind of does.
So it made me, I felt like, okay, I can do this. I can do this, matlab, I can speak to her without words. And so there is the mother part of it that's rigged to bring up a child, and that's one part. But there's the Madiha part of it that's rigged to bring up a beautiful energy who chooses not to speak. And from that moment onwards, I kind of dove back into the non-word Madiha part of me. And I began to understand her almost instinctively. What she wanted to say, what she wanted to communicate. And it's not a moment that I can describe in any logical way. But there was a sense of I would do that. So I would imagine her and I as two light balls, and there are light channels between her and I. तो मैं एक firefly लेती थी और मैं उसकी और अपनी wires को connect कर रही थी. Okay, the firefly is weaving the energies between her and I so that the communication channels between her and I are open and clear.
Yeah.
And I thought that was my way of coping, because it's when you speak of these things, it's not, who speaks like this, right?
I know. Yeah.
But what ended up happening over the years is that not only have the communication channels become interwoven, the feeling channels and body channels have also become interwoven. So for example, if I wake up in the middle of the night at 3:00 from a dream, within 5 minutes she would wake up too. If I have a tummy ache, she has a tummy ache. it's really basic now.
Yeah.
It's just we're connected.
Yeah.
And so I think we spend and as children we have these natural gifts of interpreting signals from the universe, of speaking to the birds, the trees, of being able to paint flowers and the language of flowers, to be able to communicate with beings which are not within the human body. We have all of these powers. But because we are taught very strongly not to plug into them, we don't feel safe plugging into them.
Yeah.
And we forget doing so after a while. And it's a natural, it's almost like a natural selection. It's a muscle that you're not using. It'll just wither away, or not wither away, it'll just shrink somehow.
Yeah.
And I feel like for some souls who are specifically born to carry out a purpose, and when their magic shrinks, then them being outcasts is a decided fate. But I also believe all individuals have been sent here to carry out a specific purpose. And therefore, all of our individual magic, because it's been put in a box, and genders is just the beginning.
Yeah.
The gender boxes are the very, like the topmost, most obvious layer of boxes.
Yeah.
But within the gender boxes are religious boxes, and then societal cultural boxes,
and all of that. Yeah.
There, and then there are habits and lifestyles, and then the personality types, and then there are the roles that we play within everyday life. So there's so many. So by the time that you try so hard to fit into the perfect box that's been designed for you and be pre-decided for you by your family, by your perception of who you should be, you've lost out on all of that. But imagine a gigantic, like a sky full being. There's no other way to describe it. It's a sky full being who is asked to be an ember. And when that ember then is depressed, or when that ember is supremely unhappy, has anxiety, then we have the rise of a multi-billion-dollar industry, which is antidepressants.
Yeah.
Therapy, life coaching, helping people be less unhappy, helping them cope with being an ember when they're supposed to be light beings, as huge and as stunning as the sky. So basically, what we're now doing is helping embers to believe that they're not light beings, that they are just छोटे मतलब एक जो रह गई हैं वो राख के साथ एक छोटे छोटे आप स्पार्क्स रह गए हो, उन स्पार्क्स को हम लोग हील करें, तो वो स्पार्क्स नहीं हील हो सकते हैं because they're not meant to be sparks. And if you now see, if you go through your social media feed, or the terminology which otherwise would have been a little alien to us, terminology like light workers, terminology like astrology, numerology have always been a part of our life in one way or the other, because it was just safe enough, it was big enough, not very specific enough, it didn't have a purpose, it just was a nice polite guiding light. But उसके साथ अब ये जो आपको light workers दिख रहे हैं, या the terms that you use, and soul journey, life journey, healing, these words were not there before. And when you see that originate back into your conscious level, because that's what these words are trending and have their trending hashtags, it's because they're back to our conscious level. That means that now embers are not happy and are not satisfied and will not be okay with being embers anymore. And therefore, the medication has to be given to the light being and not to the ember. And so the medication that we've been designed for embers have not been working. They're not working because your suicide rate as young adults, as teenagers, is the highest in the world.
Gone up.
Crime rate has gone up. And the rate with which the crime rate, I would say the rate of aggression, verbal, emotional, physical, all of it has gone up.
Yes.
Because, and I love that when I read this, so disease is dis-ease. So dis-ease is a place in your body which does not feel free. And again, there was another excerpt from somewhere. So tell me, where does it hurt? And it's an excerpt from a poem. It's like, where does it hurt? And it says, everywhere, everywhere. So the pain of not being able to unfold our wings, whatever those wings may look like. It doesn't have to be a big, huge purpose. It doesn't have to be life-changing, world-changing. But for example, if the purpose is to set a path for women who have been in unhappy relationships and tell them that it's okay to choose themselves.
Yes.
And not use their kids, not use their parents, not use their partner's parents or any of the friends as an excuse. It's okay to choose yourself first. And the simplest example of that is just 2 days ago in my home. I have a 12-year-old niece, 11-year-old niece, who's an extremely sensitive soul. And she is extremely empathetic as well. So there was some cookies. They were having some cookies, and she said, so there was a bowl of cookies, and she 3 aur bacche the, and she said, "So you have it, you have it, you have it." By the time she got the bowl, it was empty. And I sat her down. I said, "Nia, you've got to have the first bite and fill yourself first before you share it with others." She said, "But that's not nice." I said, "What's not nice is you going hungry. And then you as a hungry person trying to heal other people who are also hungry. If you have nothing in your plate, what will you give to another person? You've got to feel full first."
Yeah.
And another purpose could be as a mother who chooses to take out 2 hours for herself on a weekend. When, for example, if she's working full-time, but she chooses to do that because she's feeling hungry. So let's just break it down into very basic concepts. Yeah. So we are individuals who are feeling hungry. And they're, as hungry, starving individuals, they're asked to feed and nourish and nurture their kids. The first right that anybody has on a mother is a child. How can a hungry, malnourished, starving woman feed her child love?
Exactly.
How can she do it?
Yeah.
Because she can't do it. Because it's a starving, malnourished woman who's bringing up more starving, hungry, malnourished children.
And it goes beyond the physical aspect of hunger.
This is not even about, I'm only talking about the emotion. Because when I say hunger, we're so hungry for love.
Exactly.
We're hungry.
Yeah.
It's now not a need. We're hungry for love. So when I think of how people want to be loved now, what the visual that comes to mind is a clawing of skeletons who are ready to scrape and scratch and gnaw and knead through whatever they need to do to fill their always hungry bellies.
Yeah.
So that's what the world, and I'm not talking about physical hunger, that's what the world looks like today. We are hungry for love. And because we don't know what love feels like, we believe that it lies outside.
Yeah.
And we don't know what love feels like because we have not been allowed to be the full light being selves that we are. We have not allowed ourselves to be that either. And so in that vicious cycle, everybody's going hungry. And we're bringing up hungry generations.
It's a chain reaction. It is.
And we're bringing up starving children and starving mothers, starving partners. And it just, so where does it stop or where does it begin?
Yeah.
And so in many ways, this conversation and the ability to have this conversation contributes to the beginning of
satiating that hunger, maybe in some way.
Yeah, because I know I've been doing it for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not okay with being fed crumbs anymore. Whatever those crumbs may look like, whether it's from in the form of a paycheck, in the form of a marriage contract, in the form of a favor that a friend is doing to you, they're all crumbs. They all lie outside myself.
Yeah.
And I remember I read this book once, which was called, it's called A Field Guide to Getting Lost. So any person in search of his or herself, please read the book. Because the premise that it's built on, I forget the details of the author, but I do know that she is a naturalist. She's also a botanist or a scientist and also a traveler. So she imbibes all of those experiences when she writes. And she says, the only way you don't come home, you lose your way back home. So the more you don't fit on the outside, the higher the probability of you coming back home to yourself.
That's so apt. And, that's, kind of where my whole experience comes into as well. Like growing up, I think as far back as like when I didn't even know what the term outcast means, I remember feeling like an outcast. Even as a kid, at home, at school, around people my age. I remember feeling that, oh, I think differently than them. And the way I want to live my life and my aspirations are very different. And in terms of like, and this was like at school. And then when I'd come home, I would again just feel kind of the same thing where I would feel lost. And I would feel like, oh, like, where is my place? And like you said, speech was, your gift. Words were your gift. For me, was writing. So I was never fully able to express myself in words because, again, a little kid who doesn't really know where to fit in. And a lot of fear comes in, you're fed a lot of fear as well that, oh, this is something that's different about you from the others. So you're supposed to hide it. You're not supposed to show it. We're taught to stand within those lines, the box that the society creates for us. And so it got to a point where on the outside, I would try to fit into that box, but my only outlet then was just writing words because that's where I could just fully be myself and, just express myself and what I was thinking. And this is at a point where my vocabulary was really bad. Like I didn't even know all the words. So I would write in broken sentences and, as I grew older, and I got more exposure, I started writing better. And I was just telling you yesterday, like there was an incident where my English teacher, like, okay, I've always connected with my English professors a lot. So there's a teacher back in 8th grade, and she gave us an assignment to write an essay, and she handed everybody's assignment back, and she didn't hand mine back, and she was like, "I want to see your mother." And I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble. Like, what did I do? I couldn't even remember what I wrote in that, right? And she calls my mother and she tells her, like, like, your daughter has a gift, like she can write, and the way she weaves words and, the emotion she could emote through her writing, like it's insane, like, and she displayed that in her office, like I remember it was like a green notice board thing that old schools used to have, and she like put it up with a thumb tack. And I feel like that was one of the first moments where I felt like, oh, wow. So, the part of me that I've been hiding for so long, like that part that I was like, oh, I'm not allowed to show this part because it's different from others. And, others might not accept it. Like, it's okay. And, maybe I just can start being myself a little bit more. And as I grew up, a lot of things happened. Like you said, you have to get lost to come home to yourself. And in terms of what the society might say, I got lost. I was definitely, I felt like a misfit. I felt very misunderstood because of the way I wanted to lead my life and because of the change I wanted to bring. No, the world is a really like big thing. Just in my immediate circle, like just around me, or forget that, just within my own life. And it got to a point where you found your band of misfits as well, and it kind of came to a point for me to it got to a point where I found my band of misfits. We were all misfits and we had nothing in common, and we were all outcasts together, in a world that just refused to accept us. But we made it our aim, and we made it kind of our purpose to be true to who we are, because that was something that was the most important thing to us, being true to who you are, because that's what the world is constantly trying to do. It's constantly trying to change you because it benefits them. It's capitalism. That's how they make the money, when you fit in that box, because the target, like, that's what we do, right? We narrow down a target audience. It's a very generic pool of people. That's what benefits them. So yeah, and I think that's what I learned as I grew up more. Especially like I moved out a couple of years ago, and that was like the biggest transformative thing for
Living
my
in
life.
the same city.
Living in the same city
from your home.
yeah, as my parents do. And again, something that I was taunted about, and what people assume, right? Like the first thing I assume is, oh, like, did you fight with your parents? Oh, have you ran away from home? Like, all of these questions that, especially as a woman in a country like this, you get. And I think that's when I really came into my own, and I realized that being a misfit, it's not a weakness, it's a power. And that's when I met other people who were misfits and who were looking for someone to relate to. That's what all of us are looking for our entire life. We're looking for relatability. We're looking for someone who understands maybe a little bit of what we're going through. And when I fully embraced being a misfit was when I met these other misfits and who were also, kind of trying to find their place in the world. What box do they fit in? And then we decided we don't need to fit in a box.
You know what the thing that I love most about, and it is a common theme that I've found mostly in Outcasts, is the fact that because they know what it is to not be seen and not be heard, they see and hear people who have not been seen or heard in a long time, and that's their secret power of connecting.
I agree.
Irrespective of the backgrounds, mode of language, mode of any, like, no differences matter. So it's almost as if, because you know what it is to be invisible, when you see another person who has been invisible for a long time, you see them. And when you see them, and when you have a conversation with them, the part of that unseen person, the part that comes out, is again a part that is not something that it's not a nameable part, but it's a part that has a sense of hope in spite of all the circumstances that those people have gone through. So most Outcast story has a series of tower moments in their life, जहाँ पे ये भी हुआ और बड़ी-बड़ी चीजें हुई, और उन बड़ी-बड़ी चीजों के बाद the people that they are now trying to become are people who are kinder, who are not judging, who have some patience when it comes to the anger of other people. Or the pain that the other people are expressing through their anger, not the anger, but the pain that they're expressing through the anger. So they recognize it. So the sense of empathy is so much more higher,
for sure,
in the Outcasts, and that's what the world needs.
That's what the world needs.
That's what the world needs a little bit more of. So the other way of looking at misfits, और हमारे लिए महल में ज़्यादा relatable term है, is black sheep.
Oh yes.
तो वो जो black sheep है, what do the black sheep, like, why are they labeled as black sheep?
Because they don't, society can't label them.
नहीं, ठीक है, नहीं, वो तो सही है, but वो करते क्या हैं?
वो करते हैं जो वो नहीं चाहते हम करें.
तो वो जो करते हैं वो they question. The biggest thing that black sheep do is they question why. And they ask to shut up, but they say, why do I have to shut up? But why are you living with each other if you're super unhappy with each other? Why do I have to, why can I not speak my mind if it is indeed what I want to say? Why do I have to hide this truth from these people and not those people? Why is it okay to speak the truth in one place and not speak the truth or your truth in another place? Why is my home not safe enough for me to be accepted? Why do I feel like this is not what a home should be? Why do I feel like growing up I'm losing something? Why do I feel like I'm losing a part of me and I don't know what it is and I don't know where to go for help? So all of these whys is what these black sheep are asking, and the people they're asking these whys from don't have the answers, because they mostly have not been black sheep, and if they have, they buried that part of themselves a long time ago. तो लेकिन ये जो ब्लैक शीप है ना, इनका जो एक हॉलमार्क कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है, ये बहुत ज़िद्दी है और बहुत स्टबन है. तो उनको अगर 4 जगह से जवाब नहीं मिलेगा तो वो गुस्सा करेंगे,
Yeah.
वो एक्ट आउट करेंगे, वो अगेन एयर कोट्स रिबेल करेंगे. लेकिन उन्होंने वाई पूछना रुकना नहीं है. अब चूंकि उनको वो आंसर नहीं मिल रहा तो उन्होंने कहा ठीक है हमें. सो यू नो it's logical thinking also. When you're looking for solutions and you're not finding it from one data source, you go and find another one.
Yeah.
So they say अच्छा अगर इनके पास आंसर नहीं है मैं एक्सपेरिमेंट करके देखता हूँ या इनमें माई केस देखती हूँ. So I'll get into this really dysfunctional relationship and find out why I have to stay inside, like in it. I will do this and then find out why I shouldn't be doing this. So then you try to learn by doing, and all those actions are stemming from a place of being lost, a place of being very angry and not being able to belong somewhere and not being able to be accepted for who you are. So वो सारे actions ज़ाहिर है self destructive ही होते हैं. लेकिन वो बाहर की दुनिया में सिर्फ एक डिसफंक्शनल ह्यूमन बीइंग नज़र आ रहा होता है, वो उसके रीजंस नहीं नज़र आ रहे होते as to what that person is searching for. And what anybody of us is searching for is home. So जब आप 15 वो ऐसे एक्सपीरियंसेस अपने लिए क्रिएट कर लेते हो, and people have gone to drastic lengths. So I have not gone to those drastic lengths, but people have gone to drastic lengths to learn. They've created major accidents or near fatal accidents, near fatal, like near death experiences. They've created lifelong diseases. And when I say created, I mean it. It's not something, your body has been so much at dis-ease for such a long time that it's manifested itself in a physical form. And now वो physical form में आपको 4 आपको दस्तक दी कि भाई मैं बीमार हूँ, आपने उसकी बात नहीं सुनी, तो it turns into an actual lifelong disease that you now have to live with. So you have created that moment in search of those answers. The funny thing is, most people, when they have lived with those diseases or those experiences, or if they've gone through it, not all of them, but some people open their eyes to finally receiving the answers that they've been asking for, been searching for, and they wake up. So it's almost as if हमें लगता है कि जब बच्चा पैदा होता है और अपनी आंखें खोलता है, is their wake up moment. They're born, but the moment a child opens his or her eyes, they sleep. They're asleep. The soul is asleep, and the soul is now waiting to be awakened. And so after having created those moments, आपको आखिर में समझ में आता है कि आंसर्स बाहर हैं ही नहीं, आंसर्स अंदर हैं. तो जब आप उन मोमेंट से गुजर जाते हो and you finally arrive at a point where you feel like it's that you have the answers, that's when you begin to spend a bit of time with yourself. That's when a lot of things in your life begin to fall apart. So you lose your family, you lose your friends, you lose your relationships, you lose your job. And when I say lose, I mean things just begin to fall away from you to make space for the inner thing that you already have to come and blossom.
Yeah.
But we are terrified of that, because that means all our familiar structures have fallen away. And now what are we left with? Well, what we are left with is beautiful beauty that we get to discover. But that moment is terrifying. But in that moment, again, because you are becoming your light self, you meet other people also on that same path. So they're also on, and some of them have become more so than you. Some are just beginning to become, but they all begin to kind of come surround you as your soul tribe. And when you have that soul tribe surrounding you, which is sometimes not by blood. So I am fortunate enough to have one person as a part of my soul tribe who is a part of my blood as well. But sometimes they're not your blood. Sometimes they're not a part of your family.
Very true for me, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they're not a part of any of the friends that you've grown up with. But I'm fortunate in many other, because I have friends that I've grown up with, I've realized are a part of my soul tribe. All of us are amazingly on the same journey at exactly the same time, which is right now.
Yeah.
So when all of those, and you're left with a handful, like people that you can count on one hand, that is when you actually begin to step into your true power. And so 40 is a magic number. It is. Because what I love about, and again, one of the constants is like the first 40 years we spend understanding who we are not. So that means when you're understanding who you're not, it's a process of elimination.
You don't know what not to do.
Yeah. उस process of elimination में you have to go through 50 experiences, traumatic or not traumatic, to be able to eliminate them from your life. So it's like a big छानी है जिसमें से आप strain कर रहे हो कि अब मुझे ये चाहिए ये चाहिए. जब आप 40 पे hit करते हो तो you have few which have remained within that strainer, and that few is what you take forward with you past that 40, whether it's 40, 35 or whatever. It's age is not important right now, but so there's a before part and there's an after part. And the after part, when you take forward those 3 or 4 things in your next phase of your life, there is your hunger is gone. It is. So for the first time in your life, you feel satisfied. You may not feel full, you may not feel ecstatic all the time, but you feel satisfied with where you are and who you've become. That's one. The second thing is you realize that because you feel satisfied, there is suddenly so much within you to give and share to many other people who are hungry. And okay, you don't do that consciously. Hungry people are drawn to you.
Yeah, they feed off of your energy.
And you find out that you have enough to give.
Yeah.
And that is when you truly begin to be of service to yourself and then to others. And when you begin to feed that hunger, that means that after you've satiated, after you yourself are satiated, when you begin to be able to feed that hunger and you see it transforming very, very slowly into something that it's a little, it's not as needy anymore. It's not as clawing anymore. Mm-hmm. It's not as razor sharp, razor edged anymore. It's a softer hunger. That's still okay. Because slowly, people around you, and I mean now the hungry people who are drawn back to you would be your family, would be your friends who had fallen away from you. But the reason why you were born into that family and the reason why you had those friends is because you were meant to nourish them anyway, but you were not nourished. So you've spent a lifetime being nourished, and now those people, your family is going to come back and your friends are going to come back. And Ifra, the most amazing thing that started happening, and that does start to happen, is that you see those people transform. Because you just see them transform.
It's so
because
whatever you're saying, it's like
because the only thing that you are is love, and the only thing you are capable of giving is love. And when you have anger, which you will have in disappointment and rage, you recognize it and you give it a small space in the home that you have found within. तो उनको एक कमरा दे दो आप, और कमरे को खूबसूरत बना दो, बट उस कमरा दे दो उसको, उनसे कहो आप यहाँ पे आप बैठो, और वो बल्कि एक डोर भी है, was saying कि जो आप अपना घर, when you find your home here, then leave a back door and a front door open. For the thoughts which do not serve you anymore to come and go, but do not serve them tea.
Yeah.
Do not invite them for dinner. Yeah. For come and go. So all of that will always remain, right? That's a part of who we are.
And I don't think we should even dismiss anger and rage. I think we spend way too much time putting like emphasis on how negative and bad these emotions are. I don't think they're bad. All of these emotions are trying to tell us something.
They're teaching moments.
Yeah, they're teaching moments. And I think we should use them as teachable moments for ourselves and for others. I don't think we should dismiss or suppress it at all. Like you said, give them a little room. They're supposed to come in, visit for a little while, acknowledge them, and then they leave.
Yeah.
That's the only way they will leave. Because if you don't acknowledge them, they'll just keep banging on that door. And,
so the purpose of the light beings then, and it's the question is not outcasts or light beings. It is outcasts who become light beings. And when they become light beings, they have traveled the roads which are the darkest and the bumpiest and the most painful ones. And they know how to guide others on that road. They know the pitfalls. They know the sharp turns. They know the blind turns. They know the place where you would have walked for so long that you don't want to go on anymore. They know what it is to want to give up because you can't see what's around the corner. They know all of that because they have walked it. And so when they become light bearers, then those light bearers are powerful, powerful, powerful souls.
Like, for example, when I first met you, I think you came from a place where you were a little lost and you were on a journey to kind of coming into your own and being your best self. And you saw, like, I was lost too. And I think, like, the first moment we met, I think the first day, you just knew. Like,
Yeah,
we
but
clicked.
you know what happened after that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I want to talk about this.
Yeah, let's do
okay,
it.
So because the first time I'd come to visit, and the first time I met you, there was a soul recognition. It's really as simple as that, because there was a room full of people, and I looked at you, and I stood at your table, and I said hi, and then for no reason I asked, "What's your birth date?"
Yeah.
And of course we shared the same. Of
Yeah.
course we shared the same one. So वो तो clear था.
Yeah.
But then when we first started interacting, I remember, because this is what happens with your soul tribe. They are reflections. Everybody is, but they are very much strongly so. They are reflections of people you've been, and you recognize that. And if you've not healed that part of you, it triggers you so badly, unlike any other. So when you and I were interacting in the workspace, what I instinctively realized was the fact that you were feeling not very confident in who you are, and you were second guessing yourself, and you had taken a step back from your own self, and that infuriated me, because I had done that so many times, and I still do it sometimes. I step back from myself because I'm not confident when I am met with a person who I believe is a stronger soul than I am. And the reason why I got triggered so much was that, my God, I thought I don't want to be this person anymore. And I thought I was not this person. But here's a person sitting in front of me who's telling me that I have this unhealed part of me in front of me as well. And I was awful to you. I pushed, because it was me. And that's what we do when every time that we are angry at somebody else, we're angry at a part of ourselves which is not healed. And so I drove you to the point of tears because I was so angry at myself.
I remember
still not. For me, it was never right. It was always about, Madiha, I thought we have lived X many years on this earth. And I thought we had worked on this, and I thought we had healed this. Even now you're feeling shaky. Even now you're feeling like you're not good enough. I think for me, the biggest term was, I'm not good enough. And I felt that, and that night when I went back home, and I allowed that not being good enough to crop back up, because I had just shifted back to a country that I'd run away from. I'd just come back into a workplace which I was a toxic contributor to. And I don't mean the company, but I mean the corporate world in Lahore specifically. So I was a toxic contributor to that workspace. I was an awful human being at that point, for whatever reasons. And so I thought, coming back, and then I'd run away to Malaysia, and I thought I had healed. And now I had come back, and I wanted to show up as my best self, but I was struggling because I was trying so hard to disregard those 40 years that I had led. And that's where what you're saying comes in so strongly, because I cannot disregard the pain and the anger and the disconnection from myself that I lived through. Because if I disregard that, then I don't become who I am today.
Exactly.
So if I start to throw away pieces of myself and start to ostracize them and start to label them and say that they don't belong to me, and I start to disown them, then I don't become whole.
Exactly. They're all part of you.
They're all a part of me.
Yes.
And that's the strongest lesson I learned. Because after having come back to Pakistan and after having interacted with you, is that the unhealed part of ourselves, which make us angry, are beautiful, teachable moments.
Yes, they are.
Because they take your attention back to what you would like to make a little bit better of. And then when this podcast came, you're the only person that I could or had to do it with. And the thing that I said to you, that if I don't know when you will realize it, I don't know when, but and I believe a part of you already knows, whether it takes years or months or weeks, you are a light bearer. You already are. You've been working in that space on a smaller non-public capacity. in your friends. I've met your friends. They come from such drastically different backgrounds. I've met your colleagues, again, come from drastically different backgrounds, but you have a way of bringing them together, and you have a way of making them feel safe to bring themselves to work and bring themselves to your home exactly the way they are. There's no shuffling, there's no second guessing, there is no. So you have a purpose, you have a role to play, and all outcasts do.
Yes, we do. Yes, we
Okay.
do.
So not outcasts or light bearers, but outcasts who become light bearers.
Yes.
Here's to our journey then.
Here's to our journey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.